Assalamu alaikum. Today is the 27th of the August, and last night, as per my daily record, I was in my room and I just observed a very great topic again. That is a great topic, and this should be observed by the Republic of the Pakistan as to understand their self-existence regardless of their observation regarding themselves, that what is the questions which lead the issues of the Republicans into the transplantations of the Tissues Act 2010. The question regarding the same is an objected subject matter in the medical practicing areas within the hospital groups of the Young Doctor Association. And this should have been understood by the Republicans for their well refined statements as to file the judicial's order in order to have the documentations regarding the self observation of the uh, glorified digital and the non-digital documents by the Supreme Court of the Pakistan. This question is very dark, and it should have to be understood by the Republicans that when I just observe the ultimate aggression of the cases within the main frame lines of the Lahore High Court, as a highly skilled practitioner, I observed that the questions regarding the execution of the right is a secondary issue. The primary issue, when you just go to a doctor for your physician therapy or your internal auto spy while you are alive, the question resists there. This should be very cleared for the Republicans for their own reformative methods as to understand that the females and the males, the both groups should be understood that what is the prime purpose of the both groups to be part of the said hospital and said clinical information, and that the concept is very lineal group and very reserved with the self observation as well. When I just observe that the concept and the myth and the optimal issues, I observe those issues, yes. The concept of the medical practitioners observations in the central Pakistan appears to be the next point. I was basically talking about the medical practitioners issues in the Pakistan. That what is the issue of the medical practitioners in the Pakistan? The first stage which the medical practitioner face in their life is that first they have to do the house jobs in the certain areas, and after that what they expect from the governance of the applied areas of the Pakistan to have the salary packages. That is their right. I always intentionally raise a point that that is their right. The concept is that when they have the right in inheritance under the educational surcharge, capital educational surcharge, I said that the issue which they face in the Pakistan is a very global, unreconciled one as per my observation. The issue of the said issue, which should be resolved by the retroactive governance, is itself in the opposition lines to the subject lines to the doctors, especially the young doctor associations in the whole of the central Pakistan. I observe that the being the highly skilled practitioner, this is my landmark outstanding judicial reference order to the Supreme Judicial Council. Whether the Supreme Judicial Council do not want to have the reciprocate area of the medical practitioner, they have to resolve that question in their wisdom. Because I am raising the landmark judicial question where the reference order, Article 184 of the uh, Supreme Court of the Pakistan, that because I observe that the constitution of the Supreme Court is a different piece of categorical resilience to the constitution of the 1973 as well, because the drafting of the same is not as perfect as I was observing the legislative enactment in my observation as well. The concept which I observe, The first issue, the medical practitioners and the engineering councils also face the same in the Pakistan. The concept of the educational non-observation of the self-reconciled self-explanations to the statements into the documents to the said individual, which is suffering from a categorical disease, which should be distinct in the you can say that if a person wants to have the operation and the doctor is willingly and unwillingly operated the same subject line, thereafter what is the objection of the non-treatment of the same is a question is under civil interpretation by myself. When I observe that the whole resilient point of the civil service under the civil tribunal issues in the Pakistan appears to be the next point thereafter, the question of the reference order from the Supreme Court appears to be the outstanding question of the same, that the output value treatment. I said that the output valued treatment of the medical individuals in the said residential issues. Thereafter, I get the question by myself that the restoration of the observation of the said individual should have been compiled by the perfect lines of the observations of the same in the services of the governance, whether the person is discharged or not. The medical practitioner have nothing to do with that. The concept is that when the applicable or admitted individual in the said hospital is about to have the restoration of the observation of the certain types of the restoration self-reference orders in the medical practicing areas, the said medical practicing doctors always suffer out of their vulnerable actions a lot of diseases automatically, whether such individuals like that or not. This is the prime fact. In the said depiction of the true facts regarding the 27th of the August of the telecasting show, I would like to discuss an other alarming question in consonance with the affairs of the civil defection areas of the observation of the Republicans under the defection clauses as well, that if the Republicans are not in the positions to observe their self-refined areas, thereafter the institutions would not be in the positions to just derivate a law regarding the same. The departments are trying their best, but when I observe the individuals and the person capacity, I just shocked to observe the same in the uh, concurrence of the same. I'm totally out of my memory because of just observing these unreconciled ways of the assessment, and that is not a point of living. Thereby, the concept is that when the Young Doctor Association is not willing to extend their services in the multiple polarized channels of the water out break area, thereafter who is going to serve the nation? The nation itself is in the troubles, and the troubles are not being suffered by the nation, and the nation is just praying to the Almighty that there might be some angel in the public sector which will lead the public problems to resolve the same in the battle line and length of the control by the government itself composed of the individuals. And if the individual itself is not refined collectively in the inclined points of living, thereafter the persons and the private and the public capacity would be deferred in the public sector as well. As per my finding, the problem in the fabrication of the multimedia issue is a secondary statement of mine with compliance to the third one. When I just observe the observations of the telecasting show itself is a negative rule of living in the Pakistan. There I just left the habit of watching the television shows from 10 years. Whether I just watch a show, it means I'm not watching the televisions. Why should I watch a television when the television is selling the fabrication product of the human decaying position, regardless of the information of the technology to the human interference in the perfection mode of the assessment to the unreconciled human interchangeable thought as well as per the constitutional indifferences between the both. Because as a watcher of the telecasting show, you are the consumer to the said cable houses. You are consumer, you are paying the charges to the said cable, and in return of that you are just watching 100 of the channels which are being represented in the public sector having the no reciprocate point of living of the same. They are just selling a product of the third person, and they are not rotating you a point of civil acute and accurate line of extraction of the unextracted material particular as well. So my line and length and the control of the point of the observation of the Republicans derivated laws regarding the females observation, that is the unnatural reserve areas observation. This is the baseline issue of the Pakistan. So stay blessed. Advocate Gurresh King, 27th August. In the said issues, it is very refined one area to refine the republic, that the concept of the diseases in the operation house. This is my observation regarding the predominant societies in the Pakistan. When I observe that the if a person is about to being operated within the domains of the hospital, which is the prime base sections which are in the lines of the obstruction of the same to get modified by the same, in fact, and the diseases which the persons are suffering from each other is a mode of transporting the measurable transactions under the non-measurable human interferences, and they should be acknowledged by the medical practitioners in the Pakistan as well, because I intend to inform the both groups over the part of the federal governance, that the applied governance in the Pakistan, that when I observed that, so I was basically interpreting the medical observation, but because of the vagabond approved criminal vegetable sellers outside my house and everywhere in Lahore, they are called the drug active peddlers. I'm very, whenever I just want to dictate a point of the medical practicing areas under the constitutional domains, after the observation of this well refined science to reform the public through the education mode of assessment, uh, these a lot of the criminal nuisance, because they don't know. I always said that in Pakistan the private and public nuisance offense is not being recognized by the any Pakistan. When you are very creative and there is a nuisance, it means that if your the family of the said person is suffering from issue and he is trying to convince, but leave apart, that is not my topic. I should stick with my topic. The concept is that when the females under the malgroomed functioning of the organs are found in the hospitals, as to just testify their organs, as to just observe their so many issues which thing lead the females in the subordinate points in the hospital, is my applied question as well in uh, preservation of the medical science as well. The observation over my part regarding the execution of the compilation orders of the medical operating procedures in the said hospitals, if a victim of the terrorism under the rehabilitation centers within the Pakistan by the uh, recovery of the same Act 2015. So the question is that when the person is suffering from the action of the terrorism in the whole of the Pakistan, there is a flood. I know that. Now the medical practicing areas, because of the flood and the streaming issues in the Pakistan, the next point would be there are camps and the campaigning areas in the whole of the Pakistan, and the NGOs are trying their best to just control the diseases and to evaluate the human losses, but in fact they are not there in the public places to ascertain the losses of the public sector. They jointly, when I just observe the telecasting show by myself under the observation reflection order, I just observed that if the NGOs are just in the public sector as to refine the individuals by the medical practitioners, thereafter what is the interest of the medical practitioner there, and what is the capital interest of the NGO? If the both of the two categories have no value there, it means that the defected individual by the storm in the public sector would have no balance of convenience. That is my applied judgment of today. Yes, when I observe the telecasting shows, there is a difference between the infector performance of the observations of the things in the right acute lines of the human interference discovery. This is the point which should be acknowledged. Yes, when I observe that there is a huge disaster in compliance with the medical observation as well, if the medical practicing areas, medical doctors are not there to uplift the problem of those individuals who are suffering from the natural act of the God, that is called the flood under the storm, the fiber storm. And the Pakistani recognize this factor. My heart is very bleeding right now, because when I observe that the questions of the blood flooded individuals and their families in the whole of the Pakistan are suffering from a lot of the river channel issues of the India. When I observe that question, that the Indian rivers, they cannot, the Indians cannot fight a war with us in shape value of the over rotation of the types of the direct terrorism activities with us. The Indians cannot, Indians do not have that their daring information in their self. Now, because of the over rotation of the over empowerment of the individuals within the India, they are trying to kill the Pakistani provinces by the floodings, by the water reservoirs reserved in the Indian states. And despite of observing these points, the federal institutions have observed that the positions of the inclined bridges in the Pakistan appears to be the orthodoxology in the medical observation of the same. And the engineering councils today, we observed during the flood in the Pakistan from 26 to onward, that the buildings constructed by the engineering councils in the whole of the Pakistan have no value. Because when there is a flood, it means that we should have to build the strong buildings, but the engineers have no interest there, so the engineers were corrupt there. And those engineers would be charged guilty under the Pakistan Penal Code 1860 automatically. Yes, the concept is that when the individualism in the Pakistan is not prevailing in the public sector, then the private and the person capacity also differs from the state institution as well, as per my observations. When I observe the third point during the watching of the telecasting shows, there is a very impliedly compulsive mode of the assessment of the reservation order in the reference order via the Article 184 of the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. On the behalf of the federal governors, I am delivering these refined areas of the compulsive judgments to drive the proper length and mode of the war on terror against the Pakistan by the India in the name of the water reservations or reservoirs. This is my compulsive assessment. When the two groups, first, the young doctor associations are not willing to extend their medical observation regarding the poor individuals who are or were suffered from the floods in the Pakistan. Thereafter, the second point would be raised in the separation of the issues, because the young doctor associations have their issues. This is a global information. The young doctors have their issues, and the victim of the unnatural flood on the part of India into Pakistan. Unnatural flood on the part of the India into Pakistan is a humanitarian question via the section 33 of the Humanitarian Rights Act 2012 and the National Human Rights Commission Act 2014, with effect to the Australian law of the Humanitarian Act 2004 within the whole of the international councils of the common interest as well. So through this video linkage, I just want to inform on the part of the federal governance as a part of the same, that the international media should take an order regarding the hypocritical or hypocrisy of the Indian channels, that the Indians are trying to kill the Pakistani through the water unnatural criminal activities through the conspiracy of the crimes. In fact, after observing the poverty belt lines of the Pakistani, I was bound to rotate that judgment in the practical precedent in custom as to settle down a new moderate neutral mode of assessment for the rest of the Pakistan as well. So when I observed that the homogeneous type of the criminal activities over the part of the India held in the Pakistan, and the Pakistanis are suffering from a lot of issues within the Pakistan on the part of the India, thereafter the medical practitioners are not in the position, and on the secondary statement of the same, the young doctor associations vide just want to have the salary. Now if a person is suffering from a unnatural flood, thereafter the young doctor association in the Pakistan in their private clinics or in the government duties, but where their services is required is that the flood area, and they are not willing to extend their services in the flood areas. Despite of that, they want to live a life in the by private come public areas of cities. So when you just observe these stunted negated young doctor association in the medical observation line, you just try to observe yourself that what is being upheld in the federal governance and the provincial autonomy that would be accommodated a question of the natural area of observation as well.